Welcome to the What Now podcast, where we document our journey through chiropractic. Our goal is to give you, the new chiropractor, our firsthand experience in running a principled, cash-based practice right out of school. Join us as we bring you real perspective, lessons learned, and the leading names in the profession as we build the practices of our dreams. Yo, everybody. What is up? Welcome back to another episode of the What Now podcast. Spencer and Zach back, not on a Dolo cast, but we have an awesome guest for you today. Zach, tell everybody who we got.
Yeah, today we are joined by none other than Dr. Katie Schlein, coming to us from San Diego. She woke up nice and early to be on the podcast with us this morning. So, Katie, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm super stoked to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're stoked to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Stoked is a California word, so my vernacular and my accent I'm sure will come out from California over here.
Perfect. As someone that's originally from California, definitely appreciate it. But with that, can you give our listeners a little bit of background? Not obviously, but graduated from Life West about 8 or 10 years ago, you mentioned. Now in your own practice. So catch us up to speed over the last several years.
Of course. So I graduated Life West December 2016. I'm from San Diego originally. I am very much big on having a goal and having an intention, but letting the universe send you the signs of what you need when you need it. I thought really seriously about going overseas to practice. I had interviews set up and all the things, and then got an opportunity here in San Diego to work with a doc. His name is Dr. Mark Gottlieb, and it kind of came to me. I was at a point when I graduated school, not ready to come back home to San Diego and just wanted to kind of go travel and live my life. And long story short, a friend of a friend shouted his office, like my name got floated and he hit me up, and I just started exploring him as an option. And then a living situation became available like 2 blocks from the office for a friend of a friend. And I was like, oh, wow, this is a sign, like I should explore this. And I'm super happy I did, because I ended back up in a neighborhood across the street from a sushi place that my dad used to go to every week. So again, my life full circle, right? It was really cool. My dad would come to the office after like my associate shift there. He'd be like, "Hey, let's go across the street for dinner." Like it was so beautiful to like be able to go back to this community. It was in like the openly gay neighborhood in San Diego, which is where I found myself. So again, it was really cool to be in that office, and then slowly started to carve my own identity out in that office. Did the IC independent contractor thing in that office for a bit. The CAs and team there and Mark are great, and Ricky and Taryn, the old CAs there that have been there forever. I learned, a ton from them. They've been in chiropractic like 18 years, running an office, and then went to my own little shared space. I called it like my little hole in the wall spot. It was just a shared room in a like a multidisciplinary practice. Some wild stories from that chapter, but like par for the course, just adds to the comedy of things. And then opened my own shingle right when everything shut down in the world, which was wild. I went into my own space, and in California, again, every state was different, but our state was pretty strict with things. Yeah. Luckily, we got to work the whole time, but it was a wild time. And I went into the space. Again, universe like delivered huge and big time. I didn't have glass on one of the windows of the private rooms. I had nothing on the walls. I had a picnic table for the front desk. And I was like, okay, here we go. Like our first day in the office, I just had the tables and my CA at the front. And it was wild. I was at the second spot. I was my own CA for a while. I did everything myself. And then slowly built it. And it was actually really cool. Last week, a friend came in to get adjusted that I saw when she was pregnant like 5 years ago, when everything happened and we went into that space. And the space has changed so much. And she sent me this like really beautiful text around like the space and what we've created. And it was just a really cool first full circle moment. So the journey is comedy and, laughs and hard moments, but all worth it. And now I get to choose the music and the paint on the walls, as I say. Because when you have your own practice, like that's kind of the beauty of it, right? You get to curate the vibe and the energy and the expression of life, as we talk about in chiropractic, that we want to give to our community. Yeah. So that's been the short journey. Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of demographic does your practice serve?
A lot of families. We are in a middle class neighborhood, which I love. Most of our families that we take care of are both working. I think that's really important to serve a community and a demographic that you really appreciate and vibe with and connect with. Um, Pregnancy, kids is a lot of our practice. And then I've had an influx of like firefighter, cop, military. San Diego's a big military town. And when
Mhm.
I was early in practice, I had a connection to the police academy. So that's been like a little bit of a niche, and then they have kids and they bring the kids in. So that's been a really cool demographic. But we specialize in pediatrics and pregnancy and kids, a lot of ICPA background and what have you. And then I'm going to start the lactation consultant training soon here for myself. So our office will be a lactation consultant office as well,
That's
which is
awesome.
a really cool, yeah, it's a really cool niche. My friend, Dr. Steph Libs, who
Hmm.
teaches for the ICPA now, she's done it, and then a couple of her colleagues have done it, and the connection to the cranials and the spine. And at the end of the day, people come in for latch work, but then they get chiropractic care, which is like a really cool, instead of the referral happening, and sometimes the family not coming because of the referral, right? They just get it in one office, and it can really be a really beautiful unison. And
Yeah, that's awesome.
although there's some straight chiropractors might not say it's chiropractic, it so is. Like it's just getting the body to innately do what it's meant to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have a prenatal peds office, and it's just so different. Like a lactation consultant and a chiropractor are completely two different professions, but they're so necessary to work hand in hand with.
Yeah,
One, I think because of like ethically staying in our scope of practice, but two,
yeah,
also like, we're just not as chiropractors, we're just not equipped with the knowledge
right.
to do a lot of that stuff. Like you have to go
Hmm.
and get specialized stuff. I mean, I feel like that would be the same as like the lactation consultant saying that they also do chiropractic.
Yeah,
Like, and then we would say no. And so, I mean, I think it's the
yeah,
same.
yeah, yeah. But I think too, if you step back and look at chiropractic philosophy, you can see chiropractic philosophy in other things, right?
Mhm.
So if you're able to help another family and what have you, and um, I know a little bit of lactation work. I wouldn't say I'm a consultant, but some cranial stuff and things like that. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to refer you to a lactation consultant. Um, if I can do that training and see how we can help blend that together. And at the end of the day, the kid is getting chiropractic regardless. Like every lactation patient that comes in is going to get chiropractic. Like it's going to be another avenue to get these newborns chiropractic, like which is what we want, right?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
that's like number one for me. So I'm excited about that. And, being able to continue to serve like this pediatric family community. And as we all know, as family practitioners, the environment and our world and the stress that's happening in utero is translating. Like the lip and tongue tie palate reformation is becoming really, really big. And again, it's, based on environment and um, what's in our food and prenatals and things like that, right? So if we can support that need, why not?
Yeah. And with that, like having that background, obviously pediatric prenatal, was that something you discovered like while in school that was a niche that you wanted to work on, or was that through self discovery in the associateship?
Yeah, good question. Not in the associateship. I would say I grew up an athlete. I actually worked in college sports before this. I played college sports and then I worked in college coaching. So a lot of people and like myself, I was like, oh, I'll do athletes. And then Dr. Matt Delgado, really a dear friend, my best friend, and on this podcast before, he does a lot of athletes. So if I have an athlete in the office, I'll hit him up clinically, but that is definitely not my expertise. I think when I got really clear um, on my vision and my service, again, going back to like your why, and everyone says it like, what's your why? What's your why? But it's like, if you can get really clear on the values and the people that you really love being around, it makes it really simple to take care of the people that you want to take care of, right? Um, and I don't have kids yet, but I enjoy being in that environment. And I think to change a trajectory of a health paradigm, start with the kids, start with the families, have that conversation. And then birth for me, I got really passionate about birth and um, the beauty of that and how natural or options, just giving options. I think our holistic community can be somewhat judgy in ways, and I just want to give options to families. There's no right way to birth for a partner and a couple or a single person. It's just giving options so they feel safe and really empowered. And I think a lot of people research cars before more than they research birth. So I think it's really important to give them just options and knowing that they can have a doula or a midwife or a birth center birth and things like that. So that's kind of the journey with that. And then once I dove in, find that my community of those chiropractors that like that, and then also um, being super crunchy and into that stuff, and then creating a really safe space for families to come and ask questions about hard, polarizing conversations, right? We don't do judgment in our office. We're very big on like, these are the options. Um, we just want you to feel empowered at the end of the day and safe, like really safe to ask these questions, because a lot of people don't know how to ask them and where to ask them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing for our office too. I mean, I think in anybody that works in the prenatal, especially like with birth, like, or in the prenatal and peds space, like
Yep.
there are a lot of parents who feel judged for making
Yeah.
decisions that they made or didn't make,
Right.
especially like from the holistic community. And I think it's our job as the
Yes.
practitioners to like to basically cut that judgment at the bud, like nip it in the bud before it even gets there, to let parents know, like, hey,
Yeah.
mom, like, I know that you wanted a vaginal birth, but like it's okay if you had a C-section, because you still honored and took care of your body in the way that it
Right.
needed to for you to birth this baby successfully, right? Because the biggest thing is that we get baby earthside, right? Like let's get
Yeah.
baby here, and we'll deal with whatever we have to deal with as we come. But
Yeah.
it's really cool to
Yeah.
hear.
Thank you. I
Um,
think too. Sorry, you go, Spencer. I didn't mean to
yeah,
cut you off.
well, my biggest question really was just like, how did you know? Like, did you have an experience that was like, I'm going to be a prenatal chiropractor, or I'm going to work in prenatal peds, like in your associateship, or like
Um,
what was the thing that moved the needle for you?
it wasn't like an experience. I think it was like a lot of little things over time. I think I think the slowness and the fluidity and like the magic that can happen when you're with a newborn or a kid, the
Hmm.
calmness, the peace. I think like a lot of little moments over time to just show you that you did the right thing. I think I think when you step back and you think about maybe your skills and where you feel really in the flow, and you're not maybe in an analytical brain, and you're in like your body and you're in the fluidity of the experience, because that's, I think, the art of what we do, being able to just kind of tap in. Like there's no script sometimes in my office. Like yes, there, like as a business person, like yes there are, but like if a mom is having a meltdown about not being able to latch with their kid because their first birth was easy, or their first latch and first kid was easy but the second one is, and there's a lot of stress with, I can think of this one family, like the husband is going through this surgery because of his job that happened. She has a new, like it's so hard, and she has like a meltdown. You just kind of go into like a mode of asking the right questions and creating a safe space. And that for me is the magic moment where I know I have a skill set and I'm really good at doing that. And then feeling confident for them to hand me the kid and be able to adjust them and teach them some little trick to get them on the breast. Like
Hmm.
that's the moment when I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I don't have a script in that moment, right? And that's experience. And I've been in practice long enough that I just know how to navigate these situations, which I'm blessed to be able to have those skills. And I'm always so honored that they trust me in those moments, right?
Yep.
But that's those moments when families leave and then I tear up, when I'm like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I think it's not a big aha moment. It's like a lot of little moments. Or
Yeah.
you get a card from a family that's going through a divorce, and the safe space that's like a really terrible, like, dynamic with the ex co-parent or whatever, right? And that space for them, they hang out, they linger a little longer in the office, and there's a couch and there's toys, and they just kind of linger for 20, 30 minutes after the appointment talking to the seat. Like, that's like, got it. Like, I'm supposed to be doing this. Like, this is
Hmm.
what our community, our office does. And my CA is amazing, Devin. She's phenomenal. Like, our synergy that we create in the office, like, and then like the friend I have and the colleague that I have cover when I'm out of town, like our energy, that's those moments, like I don't think it was one big moment. And sometimes I think in practice, you're not going to have this like aha, like, oh my God, this is my God, or this is my like innate flash, right? It's just going to be a lot of little moments that kind of make you tear up internally or externally. I always say tears are just like healing coming to fruition. Like our office, like there are tears sometimes in our office, and that's okay. Like that's the space that the office brings out sometimes for people. That's part of healing. But I think those are the moments, right? That really resonate and make you know that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. I think
And
one
then it's
thing,
like you go. Sorry, Zach.
no, you're fine. I think we're about to touch on the same thing, but I think a big thing already picking up is creating that space for for your practice members and for your clients. And you hinted at it when we were talking about like you get to choose the color of the paint, you get to pick the music.
Yeah, totally.
What were some intentional things that you've done to create that safe space and that welcoming environment, specifically for like pediatric and prenatal?
Yeah, good question. So I always joke that like the next door neighbor to us, the walls are pretty thin and she's awesome, but they can be loud in that space too. And I don't mind it because our office is popping like, and there's soft moments too, right? But I think it's in like kids are gonna be loud. So like you're not gonna have woo woo music and like soundproof walls. So if people walk in the office, they need to know that their kids can be kind of wild or loud, excuse me, or have a meltdown. So that open spaces, we don't have rooms. It's an open adjusting environment. We have a couch. My nephew has come to the office before and like passed out for 2 hours on the couch. The couch is really big. Like he just like needed to nap. So he hung out and passed out. And then people came in and out to get adjusted and he was sleeping. Like it was perfect. Um, we have a Nerf basketball hoop. We have this like crane. I fold origami cranes. We have this like crane curtain that kind of separates the adjusting space, a chalk wall. Um, there's a private room for those needs, but it's a really open environment. The music I think is really key. The music can really create like a really intentional space. We do have white walls and they get dirty, so I've often thought about painting that because there's little marks from kids all over the place. Um, there's a changing table in the bathroom, and we do a tour. I mean, I think a lot of pediatric offices do this, but we do a tour. My CA Devin gives a tour to highlight certain things to let people know that we are a family office. Um, I say, do you have kids? And like, no, we don't have kids, and we just want to make it known, like, hey, you're gonna have kids in here. It might be a little loud. I joke. There's an old movie called Steel Magnolias. It's about like a hair salon and like a nail, like these women that just chat or whatever. And we do have some really cool people that just sit around and chat with each other that don't know each other, that make friends in the office. So that's the environment. We have a lending library for like a books that people want to check stuff out and that donate books. We have a space at the front that people donate. There's a gal that makes these like hair scrunchies, and that's like her payment for the office right now with like financial hardship. And then like people take them, like this is the space that we create in just a community centered space. So I think being intentional about all those things is really important.
Yeah, I mean, I think that trips down all the way from like your environment and your energy that you bring in the office with like the
Hmm.
physical space, but then it also it's like cultivating that safe environment for your team and for you and
Hmm.
that dynamic between you because you want like a really casual but respected and
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
open like openly transparent space like with parents, right? Like to be able to have those things and you
Yeah.
have to really as the business owner do that with your team too, right? So
Yeah.
how did you get your CA Devin on board with that vibe?
Um, I always say God like sent her to me. It was a really interesting situation where she got like sent to me, and it was in a situation where I needed a CA very quickly. And she luckily was raised sort of in a holistic space already, so she knew a little bit about it. I think she was adjusted as a kid actually. Um, and that's what I'm always super grateful for is she loves the space as much as I do. Like she looks forward to coming to the office on Monday when we have a break. She's like, I can't wait to get back. And I think going back to just teaching her like what we do and how we do it and the way we speak and like if people like reschedule or show up and I'm like the right people are here, right? We do little things in the beginning of the shift and the end of the shift that I think really ground us, and I think it makes her aware of like miracles in the office. We do a miracle at the end of every day. I always say, and if I'm adjusting her that day, like when I adjust, I'm like, what was your miracle today? um and she'll say something like a conversation with a practice member or someone starting care that we know really needs it. So again, she started to get what we do and how we do it, and now she starts to speak it. And now I hear her, like a mom will be in the office and the kids are getting adjusted, and maybe her appointment isn't until the end of the week, and she's just sharing that she's stressed to Devin, and Devin's like, "Come on, we're getting adjusted today," and she'll
Yep.
be like, I don't have the money, and Devin's like, "It's fine, we'll worry about it later. Like you're getting adjusted." Like I hear Devin tell her, like, head on back to the room, like the open room, like you're getting adjusted. Like I hear Devin do it, and I'm like, that's amazing. Like she's
Mhm.
starting to hear and what I say and how I speak, you know, and again, Devin has that relationship with that woman, right? So she feels like she can do that. So I think over time that was created. And I think I go back to too, like being intentional to the space. I was really intentional about the space I was going to choose. It wasn't going to be medical energy. There's no like paneling up top. Our ceiling is really beautiful. It's this wooded industrial ceiling. The space is not medical vibe at all. It's not clinical at all. It's a very unique, cool space. And unfortunately, it's small because I'm in California. So this, I mean, the square footage and things, but we make it work. It's only 700 square feet and we make it work. And when it's busy, it's popping. Like
Yeah.
and it's fun that way, right? And I look
Yeah.
at Devin and it's like a little nuts, you know, we just kind of go with it, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's the beauty of having a small space. It gets like loud quickly. But the
Mhm.
ceilings are really high. Again, energetically, like you need that. You need high ceilings for a space like that. My my private room doesn't have a ceiling because I felt like energetically I didn't want a ceiling on that, right? Um, and then Devin has just so beautifully like I give her a lot of autonomy. Like I'm like, you want to decorate the office? Like go for it. You know, like she puts stuff up for Pride, she puts stuff up for holidays. Like I give her really cool projects for her to feel like this is her space too.
Yeah.
Um, and if she wants to do something and redo the plants, like she freaking will change up and I'll be like, you changed the energy. I love it. Like she'll just redo the plants. She'll redo like a cute little, we have a lot of random, like we have like a rainbow gay nutcracker at the front. All year we keep it up, not just Christmas. We have like a San Diego Padre neon sign. Like we have a lot of cool random stuff in the office. We have a gong that my bonus sister gave me as like a joke, you know, like when people get adjusted, they hit the gong, you know, like just like random quirky stuff in the office and quirky shit. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this, but I do. Um, but yeah, like I give Devin autonomy that way, and now she feels like it's her office, which I think is really important.
Yeah. I have a tactical question because this is like my
Yeah,
issue in this right now. Um, I'm in a prenatal peds office, right? We have me and my wife, and then we have two CAs, Logan and Danny. They're phenomenal, and our team is great. Logan's been with me. Kind of, I met her in the same way, like out of a place of desperation, like, and she
oh my
just like,
gosh, Devin is like my guardian angel. Like Logan's yours. Yeah,
yeah. And I tell her like,
yeah,
you can never leave, and you can just never leave.
yeah. I
And
told Devin the same.
yeah, but oh my gosh, like when there are like okay, yesterday we had 23 people in our waiting room at one time. How are you like managing the space and the schedule for all these families to
Yeah,
come in at
yeah,
at one time? Like how do you guys deal with that?
yeah. I mean, Devin does a really good job of cluster booking. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you do too. Um, you know, I think sometimes like I always just kind of surrender. Like I coach her name is Dr. Nystrom. She was a mentor of mine in school. I always just surrender to like the energy, right? Because there'll be certain people and families that come in that don't like the crowd,
Yeah.
right? And they'll be like, when's a less busy time? You know,
Yes.
and I just surrender and I'm like, they will figure that out. Like I can't manage this. Like I
Yeah.
can't manage this. If they are feeling uncomfortable with the crowd, they'll ask Devin, hey, is there like, can we move our appointments like 30 minutes? Like, is there a less busy time? Maybe the kid is on the spectrum and feels very overstimulated. Like, again,
Mhm.
it'll work itself out, right? And Devin also knows certain people. Um, so like that's not a me and you problem. That's a problem that the energy and like higher power will just like figure itself out.
Yeah.
That's I think how I manage that. And I think with the space, we have like a couple benches in the front and then we have a couch that's pretty big. And then like we only have two tables in the open adjusting room. And I've wanted a third, but again, like I have 700 square feet, so I have to be like really selective.
Yep.
And I think, you know, that's not a bad problem to have, Spencer, right? Like,
That's
so
a
you're
good
just like, right,
like
it's a great problem to have,
too
right? So
many
it's like,
people in here.
huh, do I hire an associate like 2 days a week, or do I hire some help, or do I like get creative with like a re-exam where like you take a family at that crazy time and put them into the private room for the re-exam, and then you go into the private room to adjust them after the re-exam, and your other CA does the re-exam with a scan, right? Like, do you get creative that
Yeah.
way? And, you know, I think it's challenging. You know, I don't know what your front of your office looks like. We're on like a really busy street, and during COVID, we put the bench outside and like would have people wait outside. I don't know. Again, in the heat in the summer in Texas and in California, like I can't do that. Um, but in the winter, like maybe you do that. Maybe they hang out outside. Maybe there's a place, a front area that they could play a little bit, you know? I don't know what your guys' front like area. I know a lot of cool practices I've seen in Texas are like old homes. I don't know what your guys' looks like, but that's always been my dream to have like a cool home. And Danielle Drabin is a friend and colleague and like mentor in Atlanta, and she bought a home, like bought a place like that in Georgia, and it's like freaking beautiful. Um, so, and then another thing I've seen in practices, I couldn't do it in my space, but Danielle does it. She has a adult waiting room and a kid waiting room. The kid waiting room is just the first room on the front. It's just like a ton of toys. The kids hang out and go messy. The adults sit in the chairs, and then the adult grabs the kid and they go back to the adjusting room, and that's bigger.
Yeah.
So again, like I don't know what your space looks like. We couldn't do that in my space, but in Texas, you probably have a lot more space for like the same price that I pay here, which is the beauty of choice, right? I can move to Texas and have a practice there if I wanted.
Yeah.
So
That's what everybody's doing. But
yeah, right. Take me with
that's
you.
so great. Thanks for that. Zach, you got anything?
Yeah, so I'm curious to kind of switching gears. You mentioned you opened right in 2020 during COVID and everything like that.
Oof, yeah, it was wild.
I'm assuming, and I hate to assume, but like you had
It's
been
okay.
building up while you were independent contracting in that multidisciplinary office.
Yeah.
What was it like to begin building your own practice once you went on your own, like
Yeah.
during COVID, and like what you had to learn and overcome? Because I mean,
Yeah,
there's plenty of practices that started during COVID and are no longer here,
totally.
unfortunately.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm really blessed to still be here. I think that's a huge like gratitude. Um, I was an IC at that office in that like in my associate office, and then when I went to that interdisciplinary office, luckily the guy I work for, Mark, he's like, yeah, you can open next door. Like I don't really care. You know, he's big on abundance. He's like, look, your people will be drawn to me, like vice versa, right? So I only went a couple blocks away, so I didn't really lose a lot of people. It's interesting when you move spaces. Even if I move practices now, hypothetically, I don't really ever want to move if I'm being honest, unless I were to expand. Um, Something about people, they're just like on a routine. You like lose, it's like random. Even if you go 2 blocks over, like people I've heard like with colleagues that just move, you just like randomly lose people sometimes. Um, but I think moving to that space, there was one thing when I went to my own shingle and it was like a real practice, you know, instead of a hole in the wall, as I called it, space, which was like great. I had my room, I painted it, it was super cute. And then I grabbed the room across the hall. People just respect you differently. I don't know what it is. I did nothing but hire a CA and go into my own space with like my name on the door and a practice name, not my name, right? And people just like prepay all of a sudden. And I think it's like the energy that you step into in the space. So I always go back to me, like, what can I control? So I step into this space and I'm now Dr. Katie, but there's like different confidence and air or energy with me, I guess, maybe. So I think that shifted things. I think starting to market to different parts of San Diego. San Diego is really unique and it's really crowded. So people will drive 20 or 40 minutes, but for the most part, people won't drive more than 20 minutes. And where I was before in Hillcrest, if people know San Diego, there's this freeway like conglomerate thing over there. And I moved east of that. And now all of a sudden, it was only maybe 10 minutes. And I got all these people east of me from these like communities that are family centered. So I think starting to market to those communities and those like farmers markets and like getting families in those neighborhoods were really big. I was in like a really urban transient, like just like an interesting, like a lot of single, like Hillcrest is not a family neighborhood. And I moved to a neighborhood that just draws more families. So just naturally. And I started getting, which I really loved, way more my like not white families, if I'm being honest, like just minority families. Like our practice is probably 60% non-white, which I really love. And that's what I want to bring. I want to bring chiropractic to like not just white families because I think it's sometimes a luxury and a privilege. And I think it's important to expose and give options for healthcare to other communities that may not know about it. So that was really big. So I think just marketing to other family centered neighborhoods and changing your mindset a little bit about that. right? Like I think chiropractic in San Diego, there's a chiropractor on every corner, like whatever. Like the closest prenatal, like pediatric chiropractor to me is like literally 5 minutes away. They're a huge practice. They're literally down the street from my office. And we get families from there that like that office doesn't work for them because of location or vibe or whatever, and vice versa. Like I'm sure people have left me to go there. Like, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Like it is what it is. No big deal. We're sometimes at the same outreach events. And I'm like, hey, what's up? Like they're great, like so I think it's just being able to change your mindset around wow, there's so many chiropractors in San Diego. Or yeah, there's so many like freaking people in San Diego that need our care, right? So just
Yeah.
like keep showing up and keep serving and your people will choose you and come to you. I've had some wild stories. I gave my cards out freaking everywhere. And they're like, I got your card 6 years ago. I was like, amazing. She's like, you gave my card to a friend 6 years ago at a coffee shop because she was pregnant. She gave it to me. I'm like, amazing. Welcome. Like you just are chiropractic everywhere, like I give my card to like pregnant moms at the playground down the street from my house. It's like free marketing. At a farmer's market last week, I'm with a friend. I give it to I just walk up and like, hey, I don't know if you know about chiropractic, but and she's like, oh my God, you just do that? I was like, yeah, it's free marketing. Like I didn't have to pay for that. Like I just did it. I always have cards on me. Always, 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 always.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like such a big deal. Like, I mean, for our office too, like Dallas is like really urban. They have like a lot of places, and our office has done. I mean, I really attribute it to our community is just because like we're in like a really small family, health conscious area where
Awesome.
people are, thankful. Like, it's a more affluent area of Dallas, and people have the extra money and stuff, and so, but they all really spend it on their health, which is really nice. And
Yeah.
so we have a lot of families choose chiropractic as their thing, and it's been awesome. And so like we're looking at actually moving even deeper into the neighborhood to where we can be even closer, like for families. Like instead of being like, oh, we're a five
Yeah.
minute drive, we're now like we're in walking distance, like from your family, and
Yeah.
so we're looking at that. But I mean, I think it's such a big deal. Like you have to really take into consideration what are these families looking for in your office? Like, I mean, for us, like prenatal peds, like we're never going to want to have like the is this where it hurts on you chart, like
Right.
all of these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, parents are always like, and like, I'm not wearing scrubs in the office, or I'm not,
Absolutely not.
wearing a
No
badge.
judgment. Just not our
And
vibe. Yeah.
yeah, it's just not our vibe, and a lot of families, like they walk around and like they see me, like, we're young and I'm not an old guy. Like that's all grouchy and stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I thought that would be a
Totally.
chiropractor.
Yeah. Something
Um,
else I thought of for marketing though, I think like the screening thing is what it is, right? Like you do a screening event. I've come to a point in my life that I do not enjoy screening events. I feel like I'm just like that Verizon like salesperson at the mall. You know? Like it's just I don't want to I'll do them, but like on my feet in the sun, like I'm just like how can I maximize my time and get in and get connected to somewhere like a alignment center, like a dance studio or something that's like in alignment with you that has access to a lot of these types of people, right? Like that's, I think, being smarter instead of spending 6 hours on a Saturday to have people walk by that just are there for the free shit. Let's be honest. Like they're like there to hang out and walk around, but they're not necessarily like maybe you get 4 or 5 people, 10 people, whatever to sign up, and there's 1 or 2 events that we do a year that really give us some really solid members, but other than that, like we're not a big screening office
yeah, I
because
don't
for me, yeah, it's not. I think it's energetically depleted.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of parents, like, they're like, "Oh, hey, we're at the farmer's market, we're at this event." Like, it's one thing if you like run into someone and you're like, "Oh, I made this connection," but it's different if
Right.
like the lady selling sourdough and then you are also like, "Come to my booth." Like, they're there for the
Yeah.
sourdough, not there for their nervous system, not at the farmer's market, right?
Right.
And
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
as chiropractors, like, it's a big ego check for us to be like, "Hey, we're gonna meet these parents when they need us," and it's not our
Right.
job to like reel them in with our marketing tactics and those kind
Hmm.
of.
Exactly. I always say like first 30 seconds you can tell if someone's in or not, right? Or someone if you can push someone to like inspire them and educate them, or if they're just like looky loos and going by, right? And my first thing for a screening is like, hey, you live in the neighborhood? Oh no, we live in LA. Okay, amazing. Here's my card. Reach out to us. Like, we'll find you someone in LA. Like you don't want to do your whole spiel and your thing at the screening if they live in LA. especially these out of
Mhm.
town events, right? Like very quickly, can you figure it out? And then like, what do you know about chiropractic? Like, no, I'm good. I'm like, okay, cool. Here's my card. Like, let me know if you ever need anything. Like, I'm not that super salesy, like, let's loop them in. You know, like, that's not like, why bark up that tree? You can just turn your perspective and be 10 people over here that want you and will want what you have, right?
Yeah. Do you feel like in your practice that a majority of your new clients come from referrals from your existing clients?
Yes. I would say, I mean, that's always going to be the best, right? Because they're going to start most likely. Um, I'd say that or like immediate family members in our practice. We
Hmm.
changed like the pricing structure of our practice. We used to do early on in practice, I did like membership where it was like a single and then like a whole family was an amount. And as much as I want to do that, and again, I will put this with the caveat of like, it's how you present it, right? If you present individual care plans to people and you present a price, people value it differently. And if you then you discount it, if they can't afford it or they're really in, that's different. Because I do have a nonprofit in the office that helps get people care that really need it. But if you start off really low, like their brain doesn't really value it maybe as
Yep.
much, right? So I've learned that obviously lesson in my years of practice, which I'm sure you guys have too. Um, but we used to, now we just do individual care plans and like packages and like per person. And yes, they get a little bit of a tiered down discount for a family, but I remind my brain, like when people will say like we can't afford it or what have you, or they go on a payment plan or what have you, I can just turn, and again, like it's not mine to manage and it's not my energy to know or my data to know about their life of how they spend their money. But then you can turn your head to the left and just see a family who are probably middle class, right? Their whole family's under care and they're paying full fee, you
Hmm.
know? So it's just like you remind your brain like that sometimes that's my miracle of like they're reminding me what we're worth,
Yep.
right? And not to like bend over backwards for someone that you can tell is really not in and they're using like the fee thing for as the issue when really like they're just not in,
Yeah. That's,
you
I mean,
know?
we could do a whole podcast episode on that, but I feel like
Right.
especially in family care, because like we are always in the pediatric world trying to discount for additional family members coming in, but like
Right.
why is your second child's adjustment not worth the same amount as mom's, right?
Yeah, it's an
Because
interesting discussion.
when,
Yeah.
when you talk about energy and when you talk about um, how energy flows, right? I mean, money is an exchange of energy, and so you're saying that
Right.
my child is less valuable than my baby, or
Right.
my husband's care is not as valuable as it is for my son,
Right.
or those kind of things. And I think that us as the doctor, if we're willing to say like, oh well, just to get your business, I'll do everything at 50% off, you're
Exactly. No
them
way. No
that
way.
you don't value that their care
Yeah.
actually at the price that you charge, which then you're
Agreed.
going to work more, you're going to get paid less, you're going to have more stress, and then you're not going to serve people as well because then the people who you're discounting are not as valuable of clients as people there. And so subconsciously you're like, oh, well, I can just spend 2 minutes right here on this person who's $30 in adjustment, but the people who are going to pay full cash value, I'm going to spend all this extra time. And so then you have this
Right.
like weird discrepancy of favoritism and stuff. So I love
Yeah.
that you brought that up.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
something I needed to hear today, is that
Yeah.
I'm okay in justifying my way of thinking for that. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Of course. And I think it goes back to you, right? It's always my coach is amazing, Dr. N. Like so much of what we talk about on our calls is my personal stuff and how it like translate like my childhood shit, like all these things that translate to like you're literally like in sales, like it's all your stuff, right?
Yep.
If your biggest thing in your life is you want to be chosen or like or whatever, like it's gonna come across in that exchange, right? So and then the biggest thing which you touched on is like then you resent those people. You
Yep.
resent those people that and Dr. M made a huge breakthrough for me is like I I like we looked at my patterns and my numbers around like how long people stay. And if we had like a 6 or 8 month care plan and people did monthly, like they would maybe get to month 5 or 6 or out of 7 or 8 and like stop or whatever it was, or 4 or 5. And there was a big chunk of people that weren't finishing the care plan. And I realized that I started resenting people that did monthly and that weren't in, that weren't like, I'm prepaying, I'm in for you with you for life, or I'm in for you for this, right? I trust you enough to go through this process that did the monthly. I just got rid of the monthly option. Like, I just don't offer a monthly option anymore. We offer a couple payments, like a 2 or 3 month payment, even though the care plan is 6 or 7. But like, it's still they're paying up front and then finishing out the care plan,
Yeah.
right? But I got rid of the monthly option because I resented people. Because I wasn't rude to them or anything, but energetically I did. So that was like, oh, got it. And I was like, I want people that are in. So now in maintenance care, I want people that are in, and there's a price per visit option. I don't hardline you. And if you're not in, you could pay per visit.
Yep.
Right. But I also realized too, you're talking about discounting, like some people will give free adjustments to kids. And I'm just like, oh my God, absolutely not. And I've had parents come and say like, oh, my other chiropractor used to adjust my kid for free. And in early on practice, I had an ego thing about it. Now I don't give a crap about it. I'm like, cool, that's your journey, fine. And my response is like, I totally hear that. Like, are you open to hearing why we charge? I always just ask for permission before I come back and get all defensive, because I really don't care at the end of the day. I'm not defensive at this point. And I just share that, and you guys probably say the same. Like, our office is pediatric centered. We do a ton of training in these like that. I have to charge. Like, energetically, I have to charge, knowing like what we're doing for your kids and what have you.
Yeah.
But I totally get if that's not a right fit for you.
As someone that doesn't see nearly as many kids as y'all two, I mean, not pediatric trained in that realm, I do find it always so interesting to hear of practices that are like adjusting kids for free. And even for like the first, I was guilty of it. Like I would discount.
Yeah, no judgment.
I would discount a care plan like 50% off for the next immediate family member.
Yeah.
And I had to stop doing that. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Similar to what Spencer was talking about. But it's always so interesting to me just looking at other service industries. And at least from my knowledge, it seems like chiropractors are like the only ones that just love to give out free adjustments, especially to kids and that type of stuff too, which is always like so interesting. Like if you go to get your haircut, like if I don't have a kid, but if I brought my kid to my barber, they wouldn't be like, oh, like, does your kid need a haircut today? Like, I'll do it for free. Like,
yeah, totally.
No shot.
Yeah. And I think it comes across again, everything you do is intention, right? So if your intention is, and Zach, no judgment, if your office isn't super pediatric centered, like for some offices, like there's a part of me that's fine with it, because if that's not their center, then okay. But then there's a big part of me that's like, well, now you're diluting what I do. And now that's the messaging that you're putting out to the community, so that your community is going to come to me and be like, oh, you're just adjusting my kid, like whatever. It's like, no, this is like more important than your adjustment, if I'm being honest, mom or dad. So it's a double-edged sword, but I think at the end of the day, you just have to do what's authentic to you. And what I realized with pricing is transparency, full transparency. We do discount a little bit for kids to be able to get whole families like care, because again, my brain, if I look at our fees, especially in California, to cover a business overhead or what have you, but I went with the lowest amount that I'm comfortable charging for an adjustment, and we don't discount per kid. We stop it at like a family of 3. So if they have 5 kids, like there's a line, but I went with the lowest that I'm like comfortable with, and then everything above is more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it discounts $5 a visit. It goes down $5 a visit per partner or kid. It's not like 50%, which again, maybe at one point, like I don't do that, but right now it works and it feels good. And at the end of the day, you have to charge. There's no right fee. You have to charge what you feel comfortable. And what I charge now is not what I charged out of school. I'm 8 years in practice now. Like I'm over here, like I'm worth more. Let's up this. Like I got no problem. And that's my relationship with money that I've developed over time. That takes time to get there. You can't come out first month, and you have to feel confident and connected to that number.
Yeah, I 100% agree. We just raise our prices, and a lot of families are like,
good for you.
I
always say that.
A lot of our original families are like, oh my gosh, like I'm not paying $17 an adjustment anymore. And it's like, no, it's like, I mean, look at the things that we've done for your family, and look at the things that we've done here. And in full transparency, like I have employees that depend on me and our finances, and I want to give them a good life that they deserve. Like I don't, like, you value the fact that Logan plays with your kids and holds your baby. Well, she's worth more than $8 an hour. So
agreed. Yeah.
That needs to be more significant, right? And so then people are like, oh, okay, I see where my money is going. One, they start to value it, and 2, they're like, yeah, of course. And some people, a lot of times, whenever I raise my prices, they'll say, I was wondering when you were going to raise the prices, because you do like so good of a job that you're worth
totally.
And I think that's a big issue in chiropractic as a profession as a whole, is just like Zach said, there is no other profession that's like, oh, I'll do this for free. If you go to an orthopedic surgeon and you get your ACL replaced, just because your son tears his ACL, the orthopedic surgeons are going to be like, well, I did it on your dad, so I guess
they don't give a shit.
Dude, they
Yeah,
don't.
they don't give a shit.
Or it's the same
No.
thing if me and my wife or me and our family, we go to dinner and we both order the same sandwich. They're not going to be like, oh, well, she ordered the sandwich first, so you're going to get half off.
Yeah.
Dude, that's ridiculous. And
Yeah. Yeah.
we would be happy about it, but then I would be like, man, this sandwich is kind of suspect if I'm getting it for half off. Like, why are they trying to get rid of them so fast? But
Right.
for us as chiropractors, we say like, oh, chiropractic is the most valuable thing for your health, yet we charge pennies on the
I
dollar of
know.
what we go to school for. So
I
Mhm.
know. Yeah.
it's not
Spencer,
right.
I can tell is very, very, very passionate about this. I have two
Yeah.
things. One, um, I it's really interesting so I had neck surgery. That's been a part of my journey of charging more as well for my care and changing my technique too. I used to manually adjust and I do TRT now. More for people that don't know, a more tonal technique, not manual, uses the integrator. And I also now feel like I can charge more because I feel like the technique is a little bit more precise, specific, like what have you. So that's a whole nother level of like why my fees are the way they are in the conversation. People that can work on their relationship to money, that's probably the biggest thing with owning a business and being in our role that we are. Like we can be amazing chiropractors and have clinical certainty, but if you don't have a good relationship with money and feel comfortable and safe and confident charging what you charge in a loving way, not in a being a jerk way, right? And having
Mhm.
those conversations when you up your fees, that's the biggest growth edge, I think, in like your years 2 to 5, because you're going to up your fees and you need to feel good about it. But my orthopedic surgeon wasn't like, oh, I'll give you a discount like on your neck surgery. Like he didn't say that.
Yeah.
Like he don't give a shit, and he's also not dealing with it. The billing office is, right? And it's
Yep.
interesting to me, like charging, like having a care plan, coming into the ROF, a couple going home and thinking about it, and then writing me an email to negotiate with me for fees. And it was interesting. My coach, Dr. N, really, really called me on it. She goes, your ego's pretty bruised. I go, oh, hell yeah, it is. Like, she wouldn't do this with a whatever. And she goes, okay, what do you really want? And I said, I want to take care of them. She's like, let the ego off. Like, you're a little like hurt right now that she would email you and do this, and has the audacity or what have you. She's like, let it go. That doesn't serve you. Put a line, say you can take care of them for this fee, and then if she doesn't go for that, then like let it go. Like do a
Yeah.
number that you're comfortable with, maybe a little lower than your normal fees. But like at the end of the day, if you really want to take care of them, like have a boundary and let it go.
Well,
And it
the
was a
thing
really eye-opening experience, that like whole exchange with this woman that didn't start caring. I was like, okay, not meant to be.
the thing that I'm gonna
You're
the
good.
thing that I realized about all of that is that the parents, if they don't choose you, they're going to spend those dollars in some other method, right? And so
Totally.
Mhm.
if they're like, oh, I don't see the value in this, and I want to pay less, then it's like, okay, well maybe we did a bad job, or we did not do a full, complete job of conveying value to them, or why this is the best use of their finances, or something. But that's
Right.
we can continue to go on for
And
hours
I
about this.
and I would like to not necessarily pivot, but we're already talking about it. And again, we were kind of joking, no scripts for our podcast. But Katie, you've kind of teed us up perfectly for a few of these questions. What have been some techniques or books or things you've done to really work on your money mindset over the last 8 years
Yeah.
that you're like, I wish I had done this sooner or got to this sooner?
Yeah. The book that I give, probably that was recommended to me when I started my own, that I used to read like a page or two every day in the morning before I go to the office, is the Little Money Bible. Super
Nice.
helpful.
Just got it in the
And I
mail
gift it
last
often.
week.
I'm sorry.
I just got it in the mail last week, so I'm
Yeah,
excited
it's
for it.
super helpful. And it's a really good like 1 or 2 page like quick hitter just in the morning to get your mindset right. And I gift it often to like people that start their own practice because it's a really good like frame set. Um, I think my brain, I remember when I started my own as an IC and I would look at my bank account, it's really hard to go into because I remember shifting when I was an associate, I could go into an ROF and not care or not if they started, right? And I cared, but I didn't have an anxiousness of them needing to start to pay my bills, right? So that mindset and that energy is actually really attractive in sales. It's not angsty, it's not desperate, it's not whatever. It's kind of like a take it or leave it. Like this is who we are, like we want to help you, but like it's the psychology of sales, right?
Yep.
Um so that I would just tell my brain I have like X amount of money in the bank. Like I would just tell my brain like, and at the time it was like 10 grand, you know, because I was like, I got 10 grand, you know, the amounts shift as your life gets bigger and what have you, right? But it's kind of gratitude exercise to reflect on perspective, right? Like in my brain, like 10 grand in savings was so much at the time, you know, and I'm like, okay, like I have 10 grand. Okay, we're good, Katie, you know? So I would tell my brain that. Um, the other thing about it was I wasn't scared to do other things to make money. You know, I drove for Lyft, I catered. I would like go to the office and then I'd go cater at night at this like golf course. You know, like I was doing whatever I needed to do to make money so I could take that money and put it into like some ads or some digital, like again, like I wasn't scared. And I think some chiropractors have like a thing about that of like, I'm not going to do anything but chiropractic, you know. And
Mm.
I remember my dad even having a conversation. We're really close. And I called him on the way home one day from catering because I met this like, we're big sports people. I met this like guy whose son played in the NFL, and I just called to tell him about it. And he goes, Pump, I thought you were a chiropractor. Like, what are you doing catering? And
Mm.
it hurt me at the time. And then he called me back and he's like, that's my shit, Katie. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so proud of you. Like, you know, and he didn't understand like what I was trying to do. Right. And it was his stuff. He projected. Right. And he apologized. But I just was like, Dad, I'm doing what I can. Like, I'm not, chiropractic is my mission, but I'm doing what I need to do in California to like pay rent, you know? So I think just having the humility to be able to do that. Um, the other piece of it was being able to be really authentic to like who you are. I think the challenge in being an IC is I was in an office that I worked with two other guys who have a great practice and that was authentic to them, but not getting caught up with like what they were doing and their numbers or what they were collecting. Like just stay in your lane, Katie. You know, and it was beautiful. And I would tell him now, his name is Bo. He's a friend and colleague from school. He's a good dude. And while we were in the office, I can be authentic and vulnerable and say like I felt competition with him. Totally, you know? And then I left the office and went to my own space. And I remember running into him at the airport. And I had no interest in my brain to overinflate my numbers or say anything about it when he brought up practice. I just was like so lovingly detached from like that experience. And I was like, I'm good. I'm really happy and proud of like what I've created. And it has nothing to do with what Bo's doing or not. And he was a really big mirror, and I'm grateful for him. He was a really big mirror and teacher for me that way. And I would tell him that if I saw him today, if we had that conversation, right? And I needed that at the time to be like, Edie, this is not about them. This is about you and staying on your path.
Yeah.
You know, and that was just my shit of wanting to be included and like keeping up with the boys and like competition, you know? And I'm like, Edie, it's not about that. Like stay in your lane. Don't get caught up with that. So I think that was the journey of being an IC in an office that was happening for me, not to me, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
So,
That's great.
and then getting really clear on your life around what your goals are and getting a financial planner because
Yeah.
that will, someone that's good, like someone that you vibe with. I love mine. If you're in California, I'll happily recommend him. He's amazing. I grew up with a mutual friend of his that we got introduced, and he's super helpful with, again, like I don't have the time or energy or desire to learn how these things work. You know, I can just say, this is what I want. This is what I want. My two goals. I bought, again, California home prices are wild, but I bought like a little cabin in Big Bear and I have an Airbnb and diversifying your income. Like I love chiropractic, but it's a grind every month. Right. And now I'm over here like investment wise, like I wanted to buy a home in San Diego with my life, you know. I'm divorced, and when I got divorced, I looked at my like options that way of single income with my student loans in California and San Diego. I was like, well, I'm not ready to buy in the community I want with my student loans. It you know messes you up with getting approved, so I'm going to buy you know wherever, and it's worked, and I you know it's I have more equity in that than like my practice if I'm being transparent. You know, like that's gone up way quicker in a
Mhm.
year than my practice has in a year, right?
Yeah.
So again, like being able to be open to that, because I think in chiropractic we get so pigeonholed into like build chiropractic that like how do we think outside our box, right?
Yeah.
I think it's
And
a
trying to diversify your income that way. And then now it's like a business for me. Like I have two
Mhm.
businesses technically, right?
I think it's a
So
like an often not talked about thing in chiropractic circles that so
yes,
many of these uh, people that we look up to, and I really appreciate Dr. Lauren Brunswick, who I think is kind of shedding light on this, where a lot of chiropractors are yes, making their initial money from their offices, but it's the ability to begin diversifying into
Yes.
real estate and other aspects to
Yeah.
create that more stability. And I think tying that back into, when you have that stability, you can kind of go back into that report of findings when you were the associate, where it's like, there's
Yes.
not a lot of tension in here. Spencer and I were at an event where Dan Martell talked about like a car salesman at a dealership. There's all these guys like coming up to him, this or that, and then he's just, there's one car salesman in the back with his feet up on the desk, like shoes off, like all these different types of things, and he's just relaxed. And he's like, I bet that's the top grossing salesman because he's just chill, like it doesn't matter to him.
Yep.
And creating that ability to do so from abundance. Loving the thumbs up, but people can't see the video, but
right.
Riverside
and then
is, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, it's cut out. You said Riverside what?
No, I don't know why Riverside is
doing
like
the thumbs up thing. There's like
Oh, got it. Yeah, it's all good. But then you get to have fun in your office, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a Chiro colleague here in San Diego, and him and his wife have a few Airbnbs. And he said something to me one day and it really framed it. And the end, I don't want to share a conversation, but like the end thing was like, now I get to have fun in my office.
Yep.
It's like a side business for them, but like really it's like a big income business for them, and they have an LLC and everything. And it's like, now I just get to have fun in this office. And that's what I want. My perfect life. Someone asked me my perfect life with my body and my neck surgery. Like I know the amount of people that I want to see. I want to have an associate. I don't want this monster 700, 800 a week practice, like 700 square feet. I would love to see, twice as what we're seeing, have an associate, work like 3.5 days a week, have 2 or 3 Airbnbs and just like love my life. Like just have like a couple of things and like do that. Like that would be so amazing, and like that would be such an amazing life. Like I get excited to go to the office. It's not a grind to like build it every month and meet overhead and put away and save it, like it's just like, like it's just like cruising,
Yeah, I think that's a big key that a lot of chiropractors are starting to wake up to, especially like in our age generation, is that we don't want to have to go there and push the grindstone every single day of the rest of our life all the time because we've seen what the previous generation has done. Like literally chiropractors like dying over the table, like doing an adjustment.
Oh my
like
God.
really having heart issues because we just give so much and we serve so much and we never give back to ourselves because we've really have created a prison in our practices because we don't have systems. It's tied completely to us, and physically it's demanding.
And our body, no one tells you the stuff your body's going to go through when you sign up for chiropractic school.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
I always want to build chiropractic school for my neck surgery and my autoimmune challenge, like I'm just like, all right. And I love what we do. Like it makes me a better practitioner in so many ways. I'm grateful for it. And like my body, the life of a chiropractor is not simple, energetically, physically, like everything, right?
So true.
It comes with the amount of money I spend on like my rehab, my body, like all the things. Like I could rival LeBron James over here on my recovery,
Yeah, literally. But
man,
Katie, thank you so much for this episode. There's so many things that we can keep going on for ages, but I just want to say thank you so much for being a guest on the show. Where can everybody find you to stay up to date with what you're doing?
Of course. My Instagram is at Dr. Katie Schlein. Our office is at Family Connection Chiro. Student, like business owner, like wherever you're at in the process, I always learn from people too. So like, please reach out to me. I said before we started recording, time I think is a commodity, and I'm happy to always answer questions. I'm a big voice memoer, so if you have questions, like a voice memo is always, I think, easy on Instagram. I would say my Dr. Katie Instagram, I look at more of the DMs. My CA does the office one. But yeah, reach out. And then you can always email if you don't have Instagram, you can go through our website. It's familyconnectionchiropractic.com. And then my CA will give my cell phone number most likely. But yeah, I look forward to continuing to watch this podcast. I so appreciate what you guys are doing too, because these conversations, I mean, Dr. Matt and I, we have these conversations all the time, and we're like, man, I wish we could record like the shit we used to know, like the shit we knew, when we graduated and stuff. So I so appreciate you guys creating this space, and keep cruising and keep crushing and keep, turning the crank, as we say. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to following you along, and I'm sure our listeners will too.
Yeah,
Yep.
of course. Thanks so much, Zach. Thanks, Spencer.
Thanks, Katie. You rock. Peace.
Of course. Bye, guys.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the What Now podcast. If you took something valuable away, feel free to share it with a friend, post it on your socials, or give us a 5-star review. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.